As everyone gets settled in, and I test the sound of my voice, and feeling good. Not Barry White good, but it's getting down there. We moved and are trying something new, which is kind of like a period one wrap up. So if you had questions that you asked directors throughout the week, or something pops into your mind today or tomorrow or over the weekend of a group that is presenting today or has presented this week, we're going to try and get those answered, those that are low-hanging fruit, and they're going to come back at the beginning of the session on Monday to try and address some of those questions so that we can put those issues to bed to try and make wrap-up at the end of season smoother. In fairness, some questions that were asked require a significant amount of legwork and may not be available, and I'm sure those directors, and this would be my suggestion, specific to like Philip or Manny, that they just email either the entire council or you or however you want to communicate that. But instead of having them come down here Monday to say it's not ready, to just inform like these items, can't be ready by Monday. We will have them by X date, whatever works. But no point in having them come waste their time to come down here to say that. You know what I'm saying? We want to be respectful of, the day-to-day operations of City Hall. All right. The other thing is I'd like to get out of here as early as humanly possible. So with that, yes. Jeff says he has to leave at 6. I would love to be out of here like earlier than that. All right, here we go. It is Thursday, May 4th. The time is 3:41. I hereby call to order the Budget Committee of the Memphis City Council. Ms. Owens, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Morgan. Here. Councilman Ford. Present. Councilman Smiley. I think I'm here. Councilman Warren. Present. Councilwoman Johnson. Chair Carlisle.
Chair is here and observes a quorum. Is turning on the right mics. Okay. First up, 311 call center. Is there someone from the administration to speak on this item?
Good evening, Shandell Ryan, Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the City of Memphis.
Great day.
Boss lady extraordinaire.
Back in time.
Sorry about that. We have with us Carolyn Malone. She's the manager for the 311 call center, and she will be presenting today.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Malone.
If you need to slide it closer, that's okay. Yeah, perfect.
There you go. Right in my mouth. Thank you. My name is Carolyn Malone. I'm the manager of the 311 call center, 125 North Main, room 438.
This is unique, and we can go through this like we ordinarily do if that's what you want to do, or if you guys want to get highlights. I don't. We typically don't have 311 in here. How do you guys want to? You just want to go through it like a normal presentation? Okay. You think it's better? Yeah, just to hit the highlights.
Hit the highlights.
And then because I think it's going to be it's more Q&A.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Sunday has presentation. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go to the expenditure budget. Right now it's showing for the 2023, we were at 548,615, and for 2023 and for 2024, we were trying to stick at no increase and no decrease, staying at 548,615. For FY24, we wanted to stay, the adopted budget was 548,615 also. In Cumberland rollover forward was 15,257. The funding budget 563,872.
The reason this looks weird is that normally it's comparing the entire division, so that's just her by herself.
And I'm sorry, I got a quick question when you get to your authorized complement.
And let me say a note for here, so they are getting the 2% increases for employees, but remember it's all parked in the mayor's service center that was in the presentation on Monday. So it's just not showing here, but it will be in there for the funding budget. That's just how it's done.
Perfect. makes sense.
Okay, and it's, for our compliments, we have 10 on the call center at this moment, and
So that's 10. So,
10.
I think we're gonna get here, but I think this is gonna be, I wanna make sure that we are crystal clear.
yes,
That is 10 bodies downstairs
Yes,
actually answering the phone.
exactly,
Okay. And, okay, keep going.
okay. So we're gonna get to material, M&S. Right now, our biggest expenditure was, city computers that we, got, this year. And the total is 111. That's for everything, for the 311 call center for, M&S.
Okay. And then a little unique is more kind of a refresh presentation. So you want to hop into that, and then we'll go to the queue, because I'm sure they're related. Okay.
Okay. All right, this is a slide for the 311 call center. I can look up there. You can go ahead. Okay, have all the information concerning 311 with our phone numbers on there, where you can dial 311, or you can go 636-6500, or you can go through the Secretly Fix mobile app and to put in a request that way, or walk into our call center. And what I'm showing here is the citizen service request workflow. As we like to tell citizens, this is how it works in our department. So once your call comes into the 311 call center, it goes to, the agent takes the call, and once the agent takes that call, the call information is entered to the tracking center, which is the Oracle system. A service request is created. Department staff immediately receive the service request from the other departments. Work crews are respond as needed. Each service request is assessed differently, and departments monitor service request progress and additional resolutions, and requests are closed out by the departments. Okay, here, at this moment, the call volume and the answer time, which is in March, our average answer time was 28 seconds. Our goal was 35 seconds, I'm sorry. As you can see, all the calls were answered at 95.10%, and the abandon rate was 4.70. Now, the abandon rate is when a citizen calls, and within 40 seconds, they hang up the phone without even getting an agent on the phone. So that's what the abandon rate is. So
That's a really good rate.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and we're in the process, I've been doing some things with other departments, so we're doing some process improvement. And as you will see on this slide, on my left, the comments is what the citizen would see when they put a ticket in through Secretly Fix. It was a cut and dry request. Where the request goes in, it was cut and dry resolution. As you see to the right, it's more detailed, telling the citizen what is going on with that particular service request. So we have done a lot of process improvement with service requests.
Yeah, that's great. One reads B2B, like we were talking about, like I'm inside and I know your lingo and your tracking. The other one talks to me and tells me what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so this is another example of the progress of the service request and how it tracks, okay? Resolution description, closing notes. If you can see on the old one, it states that it just gives you a blanket answer, says a summary is a picked up. It's not, don't tell you, you don't know what picked up is. So the new one shows you recycle was picked up, and it's more detailed information on that particular service request now. Duplicate message, this was one of our big ones. We have improved that so much. Recently, past history, we were actually putting in a lot of more tickets than normal because citizens would not understand what the closed ticket stated. In this particular one to the right, you see it just says CSR and give you another SR number. With the one to the right, it will actually tell you and give you a link that you can go to see what the duplicate ticket was. And this is the actual format of emails when a citizen put it in online. The one to the left is kind of jibber jabber, as I call it, and the one to the right is more decisive and telling you what exactly happened with that request. And coming FY24, we're in the process, and I say we, I'm talking about 311 at this moment. Ezra GIS CRM system is coming. This is to help us better serve our citizens, basically because right now we have two systems that don't talk to each other. So we're going with the GIS model along with all the other departments that have a GIS in the workflow in the field. And then we're also developing escalated processes, and that's because we're trying to figure out if a citizen call and it haven't been taken care of, how do I escalate that process? And then we're also gonna add the chat box. So we're trying to escalate to a more decisive 311 call center.
Oh man, I've abused some chat bots in my day. Just get angry and unleash. It is. A little bit, yeah. Ish. It's not as good, but ish. I have one question, then I've got two council members in the queue. So, and John, you got Johnson. So after me, I got Smiley, Morgan, and Johnson. I'm gonna keep mine to one or two questions. Mine really is 311 takes a lot of abuse.
Amen.
As the problem. and this is helpful. You guys are clearly identifying those that what I would call customer feedback and making those interface improvements that make the Oracle system more of a B2C database than internal. But a lot of times you take grief because you are the facilitator of messaging and the service tickets, but you're not leaving the 311 center with some cold asphalt or a hot patch or a cold patch rather, and going out there. So what happens as the ticket the ticket, the data I guess I want to see is this. I'd like to see the ticket, some sort of data points on our major issues. Like we know potholes is one. I'm sure trash pickup. Anybody else get other complaints as far as like things that you've got constituents. So my point is I'd love to see the time to ticket to resolution on some of those heavy, like just a couple of those metrics. Because ultimately, I'm assuming the minute the ticket is spun up, it's immediately disseminated to that division or department, or is that correct?
Yes.
So, and I think that's the next performance management metric, which is, Public Works has got the note that they need to go unclog a drain or they need to patch. How long is it taking them to resolve those issues, and what can we do there? So just that would be something I'd be curious, and I don't need that today, tomorrow. I mean, I could get that down the road. Anyway, I've got, Councilman Smiley, Morgan, and then Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Carlisle.
Are we matching it up?
No, not today, because that was bad. It was real bad.
We were close. We look like running mates.
All right, so I'm gonna, I figure I had to ask the question, but I think it'd be easier if I read you this email, and then preface it with the question. Good afternoon, Mr. Anonymous. Call regarding a dead dog near his property for 3 weeks. He lives at so-and-so address. The dog was originally in the middle of the street, but someone came and moved it out of the middle of the road, closer to the stop sign at Auburn Road and Rosebank Road. He said he constantly called 311, which has yet to help. The last time he called, he stated that 311 instructed him to call his council member so that he may get this assisted. So I guess the question is, why, when it's an issue like similar to this, why are folks who work for 311 telling or instructing citizens to call council? Is it true? Because I mean, this is not the first time we heard something like this. So somebody's telling them to call us about issues that we direct them to call 311.
Okay,
so there's some type of disconnect in somebody's line.
Can I answer just a little bit? If you get into those, I can always answer or listen to the calls. We do have we have the call voice, so I can always listen. I've listened to several calls from citizens stating that we were told to call council. Then I listened to the call. That is not the truth. I want to talk to my council person. Can I talk to my council person? Of course you can talk to your council person. It's not like you're not getting, because you don't get the answer that you're trying to get from us. Sometimes they will say that. But I'll tell you this, anytime I get any message from council or any director or anyone, I go back and listen to a call first.
Okay. And what information do you need to listen to a call?
Just a phone number.
Just a phone number.
That's all I need.
Okay.
Well, I don't even need the date. I just need the phone number.
Okay, that's all for me.
Okay.
Councilman Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my questions were getting answered towards the end of the presentation. It looks like y'all are evolving and trying to improve in terms of the interaction with the citizen, and it's really the communication and communication or language about tickets being closed out, and I still hear about it where they see the word closed without the issue being resolved, but you're telling us the requests are closed out by departments.
Yes.
And so it may be the issue's not on your end, it's in Public Works or in Animal Services or in engineering, whoever it might have ended up towards. Or if they're, okay. Animal Services gave an example earlier this week that if 15 people call about a loose dog, that 14 people will be told that it's closed and one ticket will be active. This kind of states that y'all have a system for duplication, and so
Yes.
that shouldn't be the case anymore whatsoever.
Right. Now, can I say
Yeah, go
something to
ahead.
that? If it's 15 calls and 14 are closed, that still shouldn't be the case because it's the same ticket. They should link together as a duplicate ticket.
Okay. And we get misinformation all the time from citizens and emails.
Okay.
We have the same problem
too.
that y'all do too, in trying to track down some of this stuff, and a lot of times it's unintentional as well.
Right.
What is the kind of the biggest weakness in your opinion of 311 right now, of something that y'all can't do that you wish you could, and maybe it's that you're seeing in terms of need from the people in communicating with y'all, but it's for whatever reason the software won't allow it, or maybe I'll let you fill in the blank.
Okay. So you're saying the need for 311 to communicate?
In order from the calls that y'all are fielding, but it really, not necessarily y'all's responsibility, it would fall on y'all's responsibility, but is there anything that's fallen through the cracks that you feel like y'all aren't able to service or communicate as well as you'd like to on some of these tickets right now? Or is everything
The only
being matched up?
thing that sometimes fall through the crack is not something we actually take care of, and that's MLG&W. And I
Okay.
think that's one of those situations that we're trying to work with them to try to help out with that. But
If someone reports a street light that is out to 311, what happens to that ticket?
okay, what we do, and that's my staff would do this, we will actually give them the MLG&W link and their phone number. We go to their website, we tell them to go what website to go to and give them that link, and also give them the phone number.
Okay.
And then now, that's one time we close out a ticket because
Okay.
it's not something we actually serve.
And Chief Ryan, so as we've had conversations about MLGW really being a division of the city of Memphis, and I know we do not want to be their call center, they have their own call center for that, but is there not any way for people to be able to report that light that is out, not direct them to 311 to report lights are out, but lights that do come out, can we not have somebody that we can relay those to at MLGW? Rather than telling, the citizen, no, this is where, just trying to take care of it for them anyway.
Carolyn can correct me. I know there was at one point where if someone called in, that there would be a warm handoff where
yes.
we would call, but we stopped during the pandemic. If you remember, the call times, the wait times at MLGW were just too long to hold up our agent on the call to transfer, and hand off the call over to MLGW. Now that they have, brought a lot of their call wait times down dramatically, I'm hearing it's a whole lot better. We may be able to explore returning to some of that kind of practice. But the system, I think that she's talking about, where they have to go in on a link if they wanted to do it online, that is definitely a separate system. I don't at this table know how we would be able
Okay.
to connect those.
Or even set
But
up a
the cost.
dedicated email at MLGW to receive specifically, information from 311, and it goes to somebody in customer service over there that knows that's part of their job to get it from that email box to the service teams.
I'm happy to explore something like that.
It's operations. All right, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilwoman Johnson. And please note for the record, we've been joined by Councilwoman Logan.
Okay, thank you. That was one of my concerns too, in regards to how information is being transferred from 311 to Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. And I'm sure we could come up with a way that we can work together and be more efficient. I almost rather for you to still record that request from an individual with lights, have it documented someplace, because I would like to know how many requests went in that Memphis Light Gas and Water did not actually fulfill. So I wish it was some way that you could set up a little database or some type of site that we can send the letters. Now, my next question is, how many different divisions do you send requests to?
12?
12, okay. Do you either weekly or monthly send a report
Yes,
out
ma'am.
to those different divisions, telling them how many are still open?
I do. And the reason, can I say one thing? The reason I do that is because it helps me in my department because my calls can be so high. So what I do, I don't do it monthly, but periodically I would say,
No.
you got several solid waste requests that are open, or several potholes. I help them out with engineering. I do that because I can tell what calls are high volume, like at the time.
Is there a time frame that each department has agreed to get these items addressed?
Everybody have a different SLA.
Okay.
Yes.
So look like to me, it would be beneficial to your office and to the citizens if you would run that report within that time period. If it's every 10 days, then if it's for 10 for one, 20 for the next one, run it to see what's actually still open. Maybe some of them actually were closed and they failed to complete it on their end, but that's the only way you're gonna keep up with it. And
Well,
you gotta-
I can say this, most of all the departments run their own reports monthly. They have
Okay.
a monthly report that they run.
Okay.
So they are aware of what they got. I just do it just because I recognize that it's a big problem right now. These are majority of my calls coming into the system. So that's when I do that because I feel like somebody needs to know.
You got
Not
that?
just upper management, it's just maybe the managers of the department. So that's what I do. I try to keep a good rapport with them, and I always try to let them know ahead of time before we get to the mayor's office or to you all to say, look, you might want to watch this, look at this.
But I think it should be a practice, a policy in your department
I don't
to
have a
do it
problem.
every so often
Yes,
and
ma'am.
make whoever aware, maybe
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ryan would like to know, which departments are coming through on 311 and which ones are not, and try to find an answer to the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
I have another question. How many calls do you receive or are recorded through the telephone or by email? You don't actually interact with the person. How many of those requests come in? How well does that work?
Well, we have a voicemail system that you can leave voicemails after 5 o'clock. So those, we don't have a lot on after 5, but we have some that actually leave voicemails within the daily, they don't want to hold, they'll leave voicemails. So I can't really gauge how many it is, but it's not that many for its voicemails goes.
And I guess this is going back to administration. There are problems that occur on the weekends. And so my question is, if it's major, who should they contact? And they should be given that information if this is a major issue, what to do.
So we have so crews that work on the weekends are for emergency, so only those emergency situations. For example, if something's in the roadway, there's a number for folks to call directly to Public Works to deal with that situation.
Where is that information? How is that information given?
It is. It's on the website. Let me see.
Okay, so we're used to calling 311. Everybody's saying, call 311. Okay, I call. Now, are you telling me then when I call 311, if my issue is this, call this number?
If you're talking about the weekend,
Yes.
Or anytime
After 5?
after hours, does it give on the call when you call 311? I know there's a message playback. Does it give those numbers on there?
No.
Okay, we can look at implementing something like that. That's
Okay, because I had a problem and I ended
opportunity.
up calling the police department. I mean, I said, well, and they did do what they could do, but it definitely was a road issue just to put some barricades up so people wouldn't get hurt. So that would help. And I think I want to just repeat, if there's anything that you think you could use to make your office more efficient, please let us know, because you are the front line for this operation. You catch it all. I mean, you catch it. I understand that. People think that you can make things happen because we're constantly telling them, call 311. And I want to thank you for your service. Make sure you tell your staff how much we appreciate what they do, because, I mean, I can only imagine how those complaints come in. Everybody's not pleasant. When they call, they're upset, frustrated about a setting. So we really, need to work on that. And I guess the other thing is, when you receive the calls, do you have a way of identifying which ones may be more significant than others, so that your different divisions will know we need to get on top of this right away?
Well, the way our system is set up, which is our Maltel system, is set up, we have 10 of the top service requests. So when a citizen call in, they can push the button and state they open a new service request, or they're calling about solid waste, or they're calling about engineering, or things like the pothole. So at that time when it comes in, if they pushing the right buttons, which most of them don't, then we are able to tell they're calling about a pothole, or they're calling about
Okay, let's say somebody said, I'm serious. People, I've heard 311. I think the house next door is on fire. I see some smoke coming out.
Oh, we're going to call the non-emergency number right off the bat.
Huh?
We're going to call the emergency number or tell them to call them. And a lot of times we have transferred 911 calls too. That's another thing, we will do that. If it's something like that, or something that's a dying emergency, we will actually call 911. They'll call us back. So somebody called 911, we say, yes, ma'am, we did. So we would do that too.
Okay, that's my concern. How do you do in those situations, make sure they know not just to take the call and pass it, but to react to
No,
it?
ma'am.
Okay.
They know better than that. Thank
I
you.
sure appreciate you. Thank
Yes,
you for your
ma'am.
service. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Logan, followed by Warren.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Chair,
Yeah.
and thank you all. I do apologize. It's hard to getting here from work. And you all may have covered this information, but just wanted to get an overview in terms of the budget, how it's approaching the overarching complaints that you receive. When people say 311 isn't working, what in the budget, what has been the number one complaint? That's because that's a broad statement. So when you hear that, and from that, in talking to them, the overarching complaint, how has this budget fixed that, in your opinion, or based on the complaint that you normally hear when people say 311 isn't working?
It all depends on what they're saying. It's not exactly what they're saying. It says it's not working. It could be a broad statement.
I guess what I'm saying is, has there been an assessment of what citizens mean when they say it isn't working, or what has been the number one complaint based on them feeling like it's not working, or and if there has been an assessment or survey or anything done, what in this budget has fixed that? And that could be to you or to Chief Ryan or anyone.
So a couple of, if you take a look at your presentation, the last few slides, we walked through a bit of what we've done to help to communicate better with customers. For example, looking at...
So let me clarify. So in your opinion, when some people are meaning that communication is the issue, when they say 311 is not working, they feel that you've ascertained that it's communication is what they're saying.
It's been my experience, and I'll invite Carolyn to say what her experience has been. It's been my experience that either people are not really reading why a service request was closed. And this example will talk about how we have changed the messaging to help with that. Maybe it was a duplicate request, and instead it wasn't closed, but really it was referring the user over to another one, and sometimes that gets misinterpreted. So we've done some work to change the language there. Or it was, for example, in this one, this is a code enforcement matter. It was opened, and then 3 months later it was closed. And then you really didn't understand what happened in between. There was a lot of steps that happened in there. So on the right, on the new, there's a communication that it was open. Then there's a communication that a code enforcement officer went out, did an investigation, found that there was a violation. Then there's another update that says, okay, person was given 30 days, came back, looked at it again, giving them additional time, or then it's referred to court. So there was some work done to add more information to the request, to the service request response, so that people can get a better understanding of what's happening behind the scenes. It used to give a lot of codes, and you didn't know what is this code or what is that code. Now it's giving you words that tell you exactly what is happening with that particular service request. Another thing that we would see is something is closed because there's nothing we can do, right? It is a state road, or there's something happening on an expressway, or it's just really a comment. There's really nothing that we can do, and so it's closed and the work not done because there's nothing we could do. And then there are those cases where there's really an issue and it was closed by a worker in the field, and it wasn't either done to the liking of the customer, or it just wasn't done and somebody dropped the ball. Now those things are closed not by 311, they're closed by a worker in the field. And then, so the customer then would have to call back and try to get a resolution. And then they have to figure out, well, which one of these categories is the real issue of what's happening here. And one of the things that we're looking to do next year, so we have been working with this Oracle system for a time, and the Oracle system was supposed to communicate with our Esri GIS system. And oftentimes that connection would be broken for whatever reason, the coding, whatever. I'm not an IT person, it just didn't talk well together, right? So that happens often. So then now 311 is moving to the Esri system, and we're also adding some additional features that will happen that you'll start to see next year. We're hoping to we're working with the developers to create an escalation process so that we can try to get at this whole issue is not working and get more granular and specific so that we can really just deal with the issue. So in particular, citizen calls someone out, we go out, we close it. They say, you shouldn't have closed it. How can I take that ticket, escalate it to get at least one level of additional response to say, yep, that was right, they should have closed it, or no, they shouldn't have closed it, and here's what we need to do. So that's what's coming in the next year.
So is that with C-Click Fix, or what's the difference in C-Click Fix and 311 iTracker?
311 iTracker, I'm sorry. The 311 iTracker is when you actually create a ticket, and the iTracker, you can go back and look at that ticket and see what's going on in that particular area. You can look at that ticket, or you can look at the 1 mile radius of everything that's going in there, and it separates by the different types of service requests. So the 311 C-Click Fix is the platform where you can go in and put a ticket in the system, like on your app. Okay, so it's a little bit different.
So are they being upgraded at the same time? All of those being upgraded at the same time? Because I deal a lot with iTracker, and I always find that it's not parallel to C-Click Fix, and I think some people are using C-Click Fix, some people are using 311, and they don't mirror each other. So this looks more like C-Click Fix. The ones that use the iTracker, you're not entering any tickets in the iTracker. That's not what you're doing in iTracker. Right, you're viewing
whatever
the status and updates.
Right. Yeah. So they are a little bit. They actually serve a different purpose, as far as I'm concerned, because the 311 iTracker actually shows everything from a call to C-Click Fix. So it takes both of those and put into the iTracker.
This looks like a C-Click Fix, which is what most people use. It doesn't look like 311, the tracker part.
Yeah, the tracker, but I'm saying the tickets that are in the eye tracker, they come from what come on C-Click Fix or call in.
Okay.
All of those are in the eye tracker.
Okay.
The ones that's on the 31, C-Click Fix are just the ones that are put in through the system. The call-ins don't go through, C-Click Fix, of course.
Okay.
I think I can bring some clarity here. So the ESRI GIS system is the CRM system that runs all of it. It's the engine behind all of these other tools that are available. So this is going to basically enhance the but it's not going to change how C-Click Fix looks. That's a separate company, but it is the way that we are interacting with C-Click Fix and with eye tracker that this is going to help us.
Will the content be the same for residents or people that are using it? Will the content that's updated in C-Click Fix or 311 overall be upgraded at the same time?
It's going to help to make sure that we talk better to each other. So she was using Oracle, and the field was using GIS. So sometimes some of the information will be lost in translation. It's going to make sure that we're all on the same platform, so we don't have that break in miscommunication internally. First of all, then it's going to give us the ability to add a chat box, and we can talk more about that at another time. But how you can interact with us, through text message to find out information. You may not have to call. You can just get some information through your text.
The acronyms that are used in the system, some constituents say it's confusing and they don't understand them. They don't know the acronyms and like the violation orders and the different things like that. Will this fix that for them as well?
That's an upgrade we've already done in the C-Click Fix system. I know what you're saying, the VOYC.
Right.
Yeah, they just beat them. Half of my folks didn't know it either. So.
Okay.
So we updated for us too. Okay, we've done that improvement on the C-Click Fix.
Okay.
Already.
All right. Okay.
All right, we've got Councilman Warren, Jones, Smiley, and Johnson with.
I'll be quick.
Yeah.
Did I understand you saying that there was a monthly sort of review where they upgraded to see have we got it done, and they sort of made a list of things. We got this done, and these are still outstanding. It was done monthly for the various departments. Is that right?
So through GIS, each department will get an automated report that says how many items they have that are beyond the service level agreement, the SLA, the time in which they're supposed to turn that project around. So they get that automatically.
But it's only monthly.
No, it's not. There will be a monthly report, but then every day they get a report.
It's an everyday thing that comes out. So
every day they get
supervisor looks at this and says, I've got 20 that, are overdue and we need to get on those, and then we finished 40 or whatever. And
they get
so that's all.
Also they get I've got 20 more that came today. Today I got this many. So it is instantaneous that they get this information.
And that's in each department that's reacting to this?
Yes, sir.
Is that how the day starts in the departments to look at that, or where does that come in for most of them?
That should be how the day starts, depending on what happened the previous day. If they've got a task that's taking them longer because of complexities of issues, or, it just depends on, the volume that they have for the previous day.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and that's Jeff. I'm right there with you. That's why I want to see just a couple of those major metrics to see what the administration's expectations are for their division heads, and then those department leaders on down, and how it's working. Chairman Jones, Smiley, and then Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Malone, thank you for the work that you do in your department. Have a couple of questions. We were talking about what takes place on the weekends, and I just want to make sure, do we have the other numbers for the departments, or what may be helpful? Let's just say if your call is involving public works, and people may not necessarily know how the divisions align with something that's taking place in the community, but I use C-Click Fix. I never just use the 311. So I don't necessarily know what happens when I call, but I think what would be helpful, particularly on the weekends, to say that if it's involved in a pothole, if it's involved in an animal, click 1 for this, click 2 for this, click 3 for this. I know people are tired of these automated voice systems, but still along those lines. Do we currently have that? Is that part of the recording in the calls?
No.
Okay.
No.
So let me clarify.
When they call 311, you talking about when they call 311?
Yeah, when they call 311, yes.
When they call
Particularly on the weekends, though, as Ms. Johnson was talking about, what takes place there.
So on the weekend, you want to say what happens on the weekend when they call in on the decision tree? I know you can leave a voicemail message, but we did talk about adding something to say, here's where you can call if it's, an after hours issue, like something in the roadway or an emergency. We definitely want to take a look at that. I think that was a great idea. Thank you.
What has been the trend, and 1 year does not a trend make, what has been the trend of your call volumes? And maybe COVID and all of that may have been an outlier. Where are you seeing things now?
Well, I think a lot more people use this 311.
Okay.
I would say that. I've been here 25th year, so I can tell you. This is your 25th year? Yes, sir. 25 of them with the same call center. So I think from I'm gonna say 5 years ago until now, our volume has spiked a lot, and I think that's because everybody's telling them to call 311 now.
Okay.
So every time someone goes out to a community meeting, or especially Steve, go out to a community meeting and tell them, he tells them to call. So our volume has spiked a lot based off of just word of mouth. And I think that's a good thing because it a lot of systems say, well, I call you all, y'all are answering, and some other people, they don't answer. So I think the volume, because of that, the word of mouth has spiked a lot.
Okay.
Which is great.
Where has your head count gone? Has your head count kept up with the call volume?
Yes.
Well, no, the head count.
I know. No, I'm just
people.
saying. Look at our answer time.
Okay.
Yes, we keeps up with it. Our
Okay.
group is I got a group that actually has been there with me a while. So that's the whole logist of being a 301 agent. You got to know all these departments, and so with that, you got to have seasoned agents to be there to keep up with it. Okay?
Well,
so,
and I asked that, Ms. Malone, because this is budget time.
right.
And I don't want, we want to make sure, during budget, we want to make sure that the division heads, managers have adequate resources to deliver a better job.
Okay. Well, right now,
So if you need personnel, if you say, hey, council, we need, the call volume has gone up X%, and we really could use 2 more people to do so. It would really help. This is the time to do it, Ms. Malone.
I get it. But right now, and being honest, because I'm here practically every day, but our volume, the way our volume is right now, we actually manage it pretty well. We don't, with 10 of us there, it's very manageable now.
Okay.
When I came, it was only 5.
Okay, gotcha.
So when I went up to 7, now I'm at 10, so I feel like I'm in hog heaven right now.
Sounds good. Okay. But budget is the time to do that.
Right, I understand.
And
that.
we just
Yes,
want
sir.
to make sure.
Yes, sir.
I can appreciate, because you all have to be, every situation is different, every call is going to be different, but
Yes, sir.
my anecdotal situation is probably going to lead to where it's probably akin to a lot of people's complaints. And so I'm out walking my dog. Do you know where New Salem is?
On
New
One
Salem Baptist
Parkway?
Church? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm walking my dog, and you can't just be a regular citizen anymore. You got to be. So I send in something. There's some apartments right across the street from New
I
Salem,
know exactly what you're talking about.
and outside of the apartments, there's this sewer manhole.
Okay.
And so I can smell it. I can see water coming up from it, so I send a 311. But, and the frustrating part of it, I sent it, this is April 22nd, 7:10. At 9:40, I get one, this service request has been resolved. And I don't know, good well ain't nobody been out there in 2 hours. So that's some of the frustration.
So how did you send it? Did you send it like to EMI, or did you send it? Okay, so the service request type that says other is 311. It comes directly to my office.
I said sewer backup.
Okay.
It said sewer backup. It said sewer backup because
They have to be the one to close it out.
Well, but but I'm saying to myself, and I know the frustration of folks, in 2 hours, ain't nobody been out there to clean that thing out. So how do we get past a situation like that? Now, what they sent me, though, was a response, off books, not good address. And so that's basically saying, hell, I'm using the GPS to say where the locator is. These are some apartments. They're sitting back, and it may not necessarily be there, but hey, Public Works, send somebody out there, and I'm sending a picture of the manhole, doing everything that I possibly can, go out there to see it, then you can see it. So I think that's probably some of the frustration with this system, a false narrative in a time frame that things had been resolved.
Yeah, and that's what we hope this escalation process will help with. And she's working really diligently with the ESRI team and also with IT to look at how can you take that, then escalate it. Because right now what happens is you'll call back and say, this has not been resolved.
Right.
So now it's a new ticket that she would enter, and then she would, reach out to the division and say, what happened here? And hopefully we'll be able to create this escalation process so that we can take that same ticket, because you lose a little bit of the information when you have to do a new ticket because that one has been closed. So that's what we're hoping for. Did I say that good, Karen?
You said it just right.
Okay. Well, like my closing comments, if you can do the job and do it just as well as you've been doing it, if not better with your current complement, fine. But if this is the time, if you need more resources, this is the time to ask for it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, quick question: What is the quality control process? Are we doing post-call surveys to determine, effectiveness, to determine, the customer service experience? What are we doing?
The post.
If I call Xfinity because they have a lot of issues. We have a lot of issues, okay? I call Xfinity and say, my internet's out or whatever. I'm experiencing problems with my cable connection, something. And then when I get done talking to the service rep, it says, would you like to take a post-call survey? How do you rate your experience? Absolutely terrible. But like, are we doing anything to determine, so do we have any quality control process?
Well, I think that's what we want to see is some data, some data management of how many tickets, when tickets are going and what their clearance rate is and major tickets and resolve. Because it sounds to me like their call center is going well because they're routing it to the right place. The satisfaction piece is the division and service center, how fast are they clearing the resolve rate? And that's what we've asked them to bring back.
So I get that, but I want to know more so about how people feel after they having those conversations. That's a lot of calls. So I want to know, is it based on maybe our reps are, talking to people poorly, or maybe they're doing an amazing job. Like when I walk in and talk to Trudy, I feel like I'm, on cloud 9 because she's going to make you feel good. But I just want to know. I want to know.
Like a feedback.
Yes, feedback.
Yeah.
There we go.
We did that years ago, but we haven't. So far with the Oracle system, we haven't.
I'm trying to determine: are we making people feel like they just stuffed Chick-fil-A? Because I feel really good about eating Chick-fil-A or Starbucks. I'm just trying to figure out, are we treating people well?
And so can I say this just because of the feedback we used to do years ago? And what we did, we had feedback cards and we would mail them to the citizens. A lot of times the citizens may give a bad rating and it wasn't because of the experience they had with 311. It's the experience they had with the departments. And so if we get to that point again, we just have to make sure we I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. It's like, do they feel like 311 agent gave them good customer service? Yes, I get what you're saying of that, and we used to do that, but it was not a good thing for us, and the only reason I say that is because they're mad when they call most of the time. They're angry, and I could be the best agent.
Yeah, you're the
world.
facilitator, and they're
Yeah,
upset
we're
with you because the
facilitator.
pothole
They
didn't get
just-
fixed.
They just mad. They potholes and stuff still, so they a lot of time they're angry.
What's
But
the
it's
average-
It's not a bad thing though.
What's the average call time?
Average?
Like average time to take a call and I call you, I've got a pothole. What do you, off the cuff, what do you think it takes?
Average talk time?
Yeah.
2 minutes, 50 seconds.
Yeah, so
That's my limit for my agent. I mean, some go over
Sure,
that,
yeah.
but
I'm not holding you. I'm not.
2 minutes,
I-
50 seconds, we try to stay.
If you answer my call within 30 seconds and I'm on the phone with you for 2.5 minutes and it's done, that's a good experience for me.
I think Dr. Warren may be able to articulate a little bit better. Could you state exactly? Yeah.
I think what the way you get the information that Councilman Smiley was asking is immediately after the call, you say, "How was your interaction with 311? Do you feel like your report was taken well? Were you treated politely? You know, how do you feel about your report?" Now, we're going to do our best to make sure we resolve your issue, but we just want to know, how was your initial report experience? And that's all you guys are really doing, initial reporting. That's it. Maybe something good to know, because I doubt you have an issue there. I think you're going to be we'll be really impressed with the results of that.
I get some citizens that they're, let me speak to your boss. And my agent was sent it to me, and it's like, I know, but I'm just saying, I do hear citizens tell that I had a good experience with your agent. And that's good to hear sometimes. They have some rough callers sometimes.
Yeah.
Probably my mother.
The statistical likelihood about getting a pat on the back versus a complaint is astronomical.
I'm getting in trouble. Move the mic.
All right, Councilwoman, take us home.
Thank you. In regards to your changes that you're making in your applications and servers applications, where is this funding coming from? Is it already paid for? What's happening?
So we found a way to pay for it in this year's budget. With some support of some of the divisions that use 311 the most. So it'll be going into effect in FY24. Most of the legwork is happening currently.
You found that money. God, it's so crazy how you guys always find this money.
No,
When it's yours, I'm messing with you.
had IT development money that we used.
Would you guys sell some phones for the cheap?
When individuals call, what is the identifying factor that you use? What's the common element? So what are you tracking it by? Addresses? What are you tracking it by when someone calls?
Several things we track about. We do address, we do intersections. We have the GIS 311 locator map. We can pull up an intersection and find an address. A lot of the GIS applications, you got to have a parcel connected to something.
Right, that's what I'm
So
saying.
that's the number one thing. We used to do intersections, but now since Public Works, especially engineer, since they're all going by the parcel number, we have to have a parcel number.
So you really need GIS attached?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. But we can actually pull it up by the, like I said, the intersection, but then find a parcel.
Okay, which departments do you receive the most complaints from?
Which department?
Which?
Solid waste? Solid waste? Solid waste and public works are the number two. Number public works number two, solid waste number one by far.
Davis and Connect.
All right, so folks, they need help. We've been talking to them the other day, and we still gonna have to find some way to get them some help. Okay, and then the last question is, what type of stress relief do you provide for your employees?
Well, we do a lot of stress relief. We actually have two massage chairs in our office.
Okay.
In a little smaller area. I'm trying to give them a little waterfall to go with it, but
But see,
it's very nice too.
something like that may be something you could think about and bring back that you would like to have, because it's things like that that makes a difference.
We got 'em. We got them.
Okay.
We just been waiting to COVID kind of die down some, but they started back.
Okay.
Using them, they can use them
The
to teach them how to
stress.
implement
relaxing chairs, okay.
They're very
Yeah,
good
I
to
mean,
have.
that is so important in a setting like that, to have stress relief, someplace they can exhale when situations
That's a
occur.
great point,
And
Councilwoman.
it's a separate room from the call center, so they can go into that room. It's a calming room is what we have for them.
Yes.
When these things were popular, I just entered the workforce. Now they call them break rooms, and you just would go in there and break stuff. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your service to the city. This was very helpful. And I look forward to getting the data on some of that. And remember too, we also have the Office of Performance Management, which isn't coming, but that's a big hub for a lot of this info. Up next, we've got Director Alexis Pugh. Memphis Animal Services, come on down. Yeah.
And as she's coming, you talked about the data hub. All of that's online. So you can go to the Memphis Data Hub and you can see a lot of information about how we're performing in our metrics and all that is there.
Alexis, I typically would skip over the org chart, but I think with your group, it may be worth touching on. Because I think that's where a lot of the...
Why?
Yeah, that's a
I
great
can
opener.
answer that question.
I didn't know it's literally, I don't know why.
Yeah, I can.
That's great.
When you're ready, that is a great question.
Yeah, let's go. Let's hit it up.
I'm sorry, I was exiting your microphone. I think Shandell has the answer.
So here's the deal. With y'all, I mean, here's what, if Jones or anybody else has other ways, it is, I think for me and for most of us, we want to understand how you actually function and operate. We can read your numbers, but if there are any key numbers like a significant uptick in a line item to address what is the cause of that. Other than that, I can see, went through, I can see that you're flat. Like I got that. So I would hit, again, JB asked a really good question, which is why are you an executive, which I would do in here too. Kind of talk about your on-the-ground operations and how you guys operate day to day, and then hit key financial metrics that you think are important. And then I'm sure, again, we'll get probably into more Q&A.
Great.
Cool.
Okay. Alexis Pugh, Director, Memphis Animal Services, operating at 2350 Appling City Cove. Got the rules down now. Been here all week. Okay, so I will start by saying Memphis Animal Services, long before it was named that, was Memphis Animal Shelter, and it was the redheaded stepchild that was moved from division to division because, for those of you who have been around, no one wanted it. And this is the historical context that I've been given. So at one point it was under Public Services when that was still a division. Then it was moved into Parks and Neighborhoods, and it existed there for a while. And when Mayor Strickland was elected, because one of his campaign promises and one of the things that he talked about was fixing Memphis Animal Services, they decided to move us organizationally into executive so that I would have direct line to the chief operating officer of the city and remove some of the red tape and the multi-layers with various other directors. So I do report directly to Shandell. That is correct. Within our organization, yes, Chief Ryan, sorry. He said Shandell, I just parroted it back. Don't do that. Is that dangerous territory? So what you have in front of you now is our organizational chart. And I do think that this paints a really good picture of the various tasks and areas of responsibility that our operation conducts on a daily basis that you may not be aware of. Our staff consists of 60 full-time employees and roughly 20 part-time. Obviously, we have a bank of funds for part-time, not a set complement of individuals. So we might have, a part-time college student who works 2 days a week. So it varies, but usually it's in the neighborhood of about 20 part-timers. When we look at the full-time, there are 3 of those positions currently that fall under the ARPA grant that you afforded me a couple of years ago for additional officer positions. So if you look all the way to the left side of that organizational chart, you'll see that we have 2 field supervisors and 17 animal services officers. We do at current moment have 1 vacancy in that department. That vacancy was because one of our officers decided to move and become a 911 dispatcher. So she is in training doing that. So we currently are going through HR to have that officer position filled. We do have 2 field supervisors. That way we have 7-day-a-week coverage with our animal control department. And those field supervisors do work 10-hour shifts to make sure that we constantly have coverage for what's going on in our community. What you may or may not know is we run a full-service veterinary clinic. We have 2 full-time veterinarians and 1 part-time veterinarian who works 2 days a week. We have the veterinary administrative specialist who basically is the clinic manager. She orders all of the drugs, all of the medical supplies, oversees medical record keeping, and keeps us in compliance. We have a wellness nurse whose job it is to go around and do heartworm tests, give rabies vaccines, give heartworm preventative, flea and tick medication, 5 full-time veterinary assistants and 2 part-time. These are the people that assist our veterinarians with surgery. So it's important to keep in mind that a veterinarian is only as productive in their ability to perform a number of surgeries in a day as they have a skilled support staff, because there's anesthesia, preparation, intubation, recovery. So we have a wonderfully trained team of individuals who all mostly came from the private sector, from private vet clinics that are a part of our team now. Our clinic stays insanely busy. I would say that these people do not take a breath because, keep in mind, we are the only agency in the entire city of Memphis that is picking up injured animals, a dog that's been hit by a car, cruelty cases coming in, dogs that have been attacked by other animals. I mean, you name it. Our veterinarians are treating the widest variety of animal-related medical concerns, in addition to preventative care, wellness, keeping all of the animals healthy that are there, performing spays and neuters every single day for adopted animals. So they stay extremely busy. We do have a facility specialist who oversees our very complicated building. It's amazing the challenges that come with kennel doors and water bowls and the like. Then you get into the middle section, which is really about our shelter operations. We have 2 shelter supervisors. Again, they're both working 4 10-hour shifts, so we have 7-day-a-week coverage. And their job is to oversee the on-site animal population. Underneath them, they have 2 full-time volunteer and outreach specialists. Don't let the title mislead you. What those people actually do is they manage our foster program. At any given time, we have between 300 and 500 animals in foster homes, and they have to manage that population. They also manage our rescue group transactions, getting animals back out of our building through rescue groups. They manage our transports. We do a monthly transport to Minnesota to Animal Humane Society there. They come down twice a month and pull 20 to 30 dogs from us and drive them back to Minnesota at no cost to us. So that's been an amazing resource. We have an assistant shelter supervisor that helps with the hiring, training, things like that for our animal care staff. And then we have 10 full-time animal care technicians and roughly 15 part-time. These are our staff members that come in every single day, feed all the animals, clean every single kennel in the building, walk the dogs, take them out to play group, get notes about the dogs, socialize them. And then when we open in the afternoon to the public, they become adoption counselors. They bring dogs out for potential adopters to do meet and greets. They recommend animals that are going to be a good fit in those homes. So these guys, again, never a dull moment. They stay busy every minute of every day. Then next column, we have our marketing and communications supervisor. I know we had a discussion on Monday night about communications roles embedded within divisions versus being under Allison's umbrella, or Chief Fouché. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take the Dr. Warren approach. My marketing and communications supervisor, of course, has a dotted line to Chief Fouché. But when you look at the amount of public-facing work we have to do internally, whether it's posting about individual animals, creating adoption campaigns, and she does so much more than just putting things on social media. She also does all of our grant application and management. So the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants and donations that we have received to support and supplement our general funding has come because of that position. She does all of that work as well. She also does all of our branding, our signage, things like that, so that we're consistent, again, with the City of Memphis brand logo, and that all of our messaging and communication is in a consistent format. She has one person under here that manages our volunteer program. This was a new ad position last year. We recognize that people power can be grown significantly by engaging volunteers, but we again didn't have anyone with the capacity at the time to really robustly manage that on board and retain those volunteers. And so we have someone who's in role who had previously worked at the zoo, and she is now managing our volunteer program, and we have grown our volunteer hours of participation like 1,000% since she's been in role. We have so many more volunteers. And then finally, 2 part-time digital customer care specialists. If you email our general email inbox any day of the week, they're going to answer you. If you chat us on Messenger or on Facebook, Messenger, things like that, they're going to answer you. So they are our virtual customer care specialists to achieve all of the communication that's needed with the community. Next, we have our customer care supervisor who oversees all of our outcomes. So returning pets to owner, adoptions, things like that in our lobby. And she has 5 customer care specialists and 2 part-time customer care specialists. They process rabies tags, which again, from a revenue perspective is $700,000 a year. They process that for us. They process all of our adoptions. Basically, they really serve as our administrative team and our front-facing customer service team. If you've ever been to our facility, I hope you get a chance to interact with our WWTD, What Would Tracy Do? Tracy is the kindest, most wonderful person in the world, and she sits at our front desk, and no one has ever left mad at Tracy. Tracy is the lady. So we have a wonderful team that really provides excellent customer service to our guests. And then in the right-hand column, this is our newest department that really developed post-COVID, our Pet Resource Center. We've talked about that because it's critically important when we look at the impact we're having on our community that we acknowledge that not every animal served or person served involves an animal that physically comes into our custody. Our Pet Resource Center served more than 4,200 families in 2022. That, if you factor in most people have more than one animal, and we have served many of those people multiple times in a row. We helped 5, 6, 7,000 animals with things like pet food, medical care, dog houses, pet deposits. We'll pay your pet deposit so you can keep your pet. We basically try to do anything that we can using donations and grants to keep pets out of the taxpayer-funded shelter. She has 3 full-time pet resource specialists. She has a slated position for 1 part-time that's not filled right now. And then lastly, pet reunification specialist. This is an exciting role that's really new in our industry. And this role, her entire job is to help reunite lost pets with their owners. And she has actually built out from the ground up this amazing lost and found program that didn't exist before, that if you post a dog that you found on this website that we have, and you also post your lost pet, she manages this and facilitates successful reunifications all day long. And from a data perspective, what's exciting about that platform is our return to owner rate for dogs that come into the shelter is only about 8%. That means out of every 100 dogs that come in, about 8 of them get reclaimed by their owner. Part of that having to do with our geography. As I've said to you before, Councilman Ford, if you're in Westwood, we're at the far northeast corner. It is not a convenient location for you to come get your dog back. But with this lost and found program that we have this employee spearheading, we have a 30% return to owner rate. So it's significantly higher. And at some months, we're seeing 50, 60% success. And she's managing that singularly. And I could quantify for you the cost savings of not impounding those animals. And she is more than paying for her salary with the work she's doing. And then lastly, you see the support services specialist. This poor girl And I only say that because since we're a smaller operation, she wears about 1,000 hats. She processes our payroll. She does all of our contracts, our accounts receivable, our accounts payable, our supply ordering. So she is absolutely working as hard as she can. And I think that's my overarching sentiment for this entire organizational chart. I can say with confidence, being in that shelter every day and really practicing walk around management and participating with my team, no one on this team is coasting on their laurels. No one is here for a cushy government job with a nice pension. Everyone who works here is here because they are mission driven and they care about animals and they care about the people connected to those animals. So I'm really proud of the team that we've built. And I think we've stretched squeezed every penny we could out of making sure that this organizational chart achieves maximum impact for our community.
All right, I've looked through the financials. It's very clear why your increases are coming up and explained fairly well. Unless anybody wants to hear it, it's pretty simple. So if there's not an objection, I'd rather just go on to Q&A. Unless anybody, okay. So I've got Councilman Morgan, then Vice Chair Smiley, Dr. Warren, and Councilwoman Johnson. Councilman Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure the process it would take, but I'd be interested in seeing Memphis Animal Services being its own standalone division. Because right now, and may not know this, when we amend the budget, we don't have line item authority. So if we go in materials and supplies and say, we don't like how much the security cost is or janitorial services or travel, and so we want to subtract, $50,000 from that expense, that's not what happens. It's subtracted from materials and supplies, and then the administration or that division director has discretion on how they spend it. So if we wanted to give more money to animal services as the city council saw fit, it goes into the executive, and whoever's in charge of the executive budget does not have to spend it as we intended. And this is really, the animal services is really not related or connected in terms of operations to the executive budget. If we're giving money, or in this sometimes cases taking money from the executive or from animal services, I think we want it to be more directed in how we're cutting or adding to that budget. And look, it may not be the case in the next 6 months with this mayor or with this council, but long term, in terms of organization of the city government, it's probably best that MAS is its own standalone division. The chain of command still stays in place where you would answer to the COO, but you wouldn't have a parks director or a library director or somebody like that over or in between in terms of the red tape. We've separated out solid
to the point,
waste.
The next mayor may come in and put MAS wherever they want to put it.
That's what. So I don't know if that is something done by city ordinance, because we had a hand in separating out solid waste.
I'm no Alan Wade, but I think it can be done by ordinance.
Us having an issue. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that's something to consider. Don't think it'll be done by this budget season. That might be a third or fourth quarter this year. But this is just too muddied and mixed with the mayor's budget, and it shouldn't be, and it doesn't have to be. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very, very good points, Councilman Morgan. Vice Chair Smiley, then Dr. Warren.
I think this is one of the rare occasions where I wholeheartedly agree with Councilman Morgan. Wholeheartedly agree with you.
Okay, we go.
End times are near. When these two agree, that will be well done.
Ditto to everything Councilman Morgan. Everything. He didn't say anything wrong. I absolutely agree. Had a sidebar with you have too many titles. Deputy Director Adams, Chief Adams. Yeah. What Chief Ryan said. He's keeping me from making a proposal right now. I'm gonna have another conversation with him. I have a 17. Can you talk about the work that the animal service officers do?
Absolutely, I can. So every year, or in 2022, we received about 26,000 calls for service with 17 officers. Keep in mind that of those 17, right now I have one vacancy that we're working to fill. I have one person on extended medical leave, so drop that to 15. I have 3 that were in training for an extended period of time that just came off of training. So I spent much of this year with about 13 functioning officers for the entire city. So with that being said, they are some of the hardest working people you will meet in town. They work an average of, I think that their call productivity daily is pretty significant. They work an average of 10 to 12 calls per day, in addition to having to garner or carve out time at the end of the day to bring the animals back, impound them, put them in the computer system, write up reports, vaccinate the animals, take a photo, do all those things. So this group of people, and keep in mind, those 10 to 12 calls, one might be I'm picking up that, like, for example, one of my officers today who had to go pick up the goat that was at Grahamwood Elementary on the playground.
I don't even want LeBron.
I wish it was that kind of goat,
Michael
but
Jordan,
it was a goat.
I think you just saved the Shelby County schools millions of dollars in gasoline and lawn landscaping fees. Put that thing back out there.
Well, we have the owner. It's the second time her goat's gotten out, so she'll be paying a lovely visit to Division 14. If you are zoned appropriately.
In the city, though. You can own pets.
We have horse. We get horses. I had 4 pigs last week. Yeah. Oh, y'all have got to come out and hang out with us. We've got some fun stuff happening. Well, currently working in the field, I have 15 because one's on extended medical leave and the other is a vacancy. So 15.
Vaccinate, I guess, travel the entire length of the city.
Yeah, 300 square miles.
300 square miles. And
yeah, so they're picking up stray goats, they're picking up stray dogs, they're going on cruelty investigations that they partner with the police department on if it's rising to criminal charges, which could keep them tied up for hours with crime scene, confiscating significant numbers
about
of
how
animals.
many calls do you get a day?
The average call volume, because we are dispatched through 545 cops, and I made that change in 2020 because what I was forced to do prior to that is have an officer sit in a room and answer the phone because we didn't have dedicated dispatchers. And I felt like, 1, that was not a good use of a trained officer. 2, if you were calling Councilman Ford with an emergency, but I was on the phone chatting about your neighbor's cat that keeps climbing on your car, you're going to voicemail, and you need me now. So we switched to being dispatched through 545 cops, so you get a live dispatcher 24 hours a day. Our officers actually work through their police CAD system. We have a separate grouping, and all of their calls come on a phone, and they're dispatched directly through 545 cops. So that's been a great efficiency that we have achieved. But so 545 cops for animal-related calls gets an average of about 80 to 120 calls in queue a day for us.
I'm just going to ask them. I'm trying to figure out, you're answering a lot of calls, operating with about 17 people, and it's pretty clear that 17 people can cover the distance of the city. I guess, is it a problem? Do you have difficulty hiring whatever the specific title?
Animal services officers,
Do you have a problem?
100% I do.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So 2 points on, I think, where you're going, sir. First is hiring. So you all afforded me 3 positions, and I'm going to go back to maybe it was like around January of 21. I think it was around that time when we did the ARPA approvals. It was around Christmas time, 20 to 21, or was that about right?
Fiscal year 21.
Yeah.
22. No, it was 22, 23. It's fiscal year 22, 23.
It was early in calendar year 21 that I was afforded those positions, and we had to. Yeah. Right. And so being able to secure those additional positions perhaps in a future budget would be something that I would certainly propose to the administration, because the ones we have now, it took me 6 to 8 months to find those 3 qualified candidates. We hired one, he didn't work out, he kept fallen asleep. And I just didn't think that was a good fit for someone driving around. So it took us until this past September to fill all three of those positions. And I'll tell you why. It is, first of all, a very specialized skill set, but it is, I mean, we're essentially first responders without the title. We don't have weapons. We do have, pepper spray and an asp baton.
Did you get a tranq gun?
You do not.
Oh,
It's not authorized in our community. And they're riding solo. They're one man to a car. I mean, we have officers working 3 to 11 shifts. I'll be completely transparent. The one who's on extended medical leave is for mental health because he was caught in a shootout on Perkins and a bullet missed his head by 2 inches. And he hasn't felt safe to come back. So it is not the easiest job. It's hard work. It's diverse work. You have to have confidence in handling aggressive animals. So it is not something that people are lined up to take these jobs. It is difficult to find qualified candidates. And then the second piece of what you were saying about, so do you just need some more officers? I would make a very strong and
I didn't say that yet, but you're absolutely right. I was going there.
Okay. Well, then I will answer part B, which is it's so important to consider that it's not a matter of let's give her 12 more full-time employee complements and call it a day. Vehicles, supply chain. I'm 2 years behind on animal control vehicles, and we have multiple in the shop. I barely have enough vans. And please, it's not general services. They're waiting on parts they can't get. Parts from overseas. There's the dealers that we get these vans from that are specialized vans. They can't provide them. People
I don't
bid
think we have
on
an
it.
order that we made in the last 18 months that's fulfilled in whole, like in any division.
And I know general services. I mean, when before Antonio moved to Title 17 that he's had, I used to talk to him all the time about it. And these guys work as hard as they can to try to get us what we need. But there's just realities. Our vans get broken and busted, and there's only so many people to fix them, or the parts are on back order. Then let's talk about if we get more officers and more vans, where are all these extra animals going to go? Who's going to take care of them? So there's all of these downstream impacts, which is why we've put such a strong emphasis on prevention of intake and really trying to figure out alternative solutions, because animal services, and this is nationwide.
Can I ask a quick question on prevention?
Sure.
Sorry, your passion is strong, and we're feeling it up here.
I'm there.
And they need you. They do. On prevention, when you talk about prevention, I mean, I hear spay neutering, but like, what is being done to partner with youth organizations and the Shelby County school systems? I mean, look, every kid sees a puppy or a kitten and wants a pet, and mom and dad or aunt and uncle or grandparent or exactly. They want a kitten or a dog, and they don't. So do you guys have a partnership where you try and talk about that responsibility? Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right, more from an education perspective about what does quality pet ownership
I wanted a
look
dog
like.
when I was 25 years old. My stepmother lovingly told me to read a couple books, and then I realized I, at 25, was not mature enough for an animal. So, I mean, that's really my question. Are you having those conversations and educating children and really young adults as best you can what the cost of and the requirements are and those things of taking care of animals as part of your prevention?
Yeah, so of course there's always a capacity and a bandwidth issue. I have reached out to folks at Memphis Shelby County Schools requesting to see if we could have perhaps something about pets as part of their 3rd grade curriculum. Unfortunately, I've not received a response about that. But we are, for example, within the city, I think this is really exciting. We're partnering with parks for all of their summer camps at their community centers. And we're going to go out and talk about bite prevention. We're going to talk about pets using the summer camp program that already exists within the city. So one of the things we're trying to do is how can we partner and work collaboratively within other divisions? And so parks is a great opportunity. Been working on talking to libraries about some programming that we can do there. We do school career days all the time. My child goes to Snowden, and they just had a big community.
I knew
Yeah.
it.
She's a first grader at Snowden, and they just had a big community festival day, and Memphis Animal Services was there. So trying to find those neighborhood connection and community opportunities. But you're absolutely right, Councilman, that it's getting the message out to the younger generation. That's how we create long-term sustainable impact.
All right, very good answer. I've got Warren, Johnson, Swearingen, Washington, and Logan.
Mine will be quick. My grandchildren will be going to Snowden, and my children went to Snowden.
I love it.
Very good move. Right now, how can we increase that Minnesota type program where what we're doing? I don't think most people understand that people up north have a dearth of animals. Okay, and we have a lot. Is there other quality programs that you've looked at? Is there anything else that we can do as a council to help you get more of those to decrease our volume and population?
Sure, great question, because so right now we are actually on hold with Animal Humane Society in Minnesota, unfortunately, because they have had an outbreak of canine influenza, which is ravaging many shelters around the country. So they're on hold. We're hoping that that will resume again in June. So that has held up that program. We've had other transport programs in the past. Some of those we've actually seen population increases in northern shelters and them having a difficulty to move animals in the national shelter crisis that we've been going through in the past 2 years. But I will say, we're always looking for innovative solutions. For example, I sent 7 dogs and 2 cats to Canada 2 days ago because I found a local rescue partner that was driving to Toronto, and I found a partner in Canada, and I said, can we put some of these guys on the bus with you? And we did. And so one of the things that the budget as presented by the administration is going to afford is a little more cushion with the part-time salaries, which will allow me to hire 2 more part-time rescue coordinators whose very first job is going to be to go through every single rescue organization that has ever pulled a single animal from us and reach out to them and try to reconnect and increase outcomes for pets in that way. We also got a transport van last year, so we can actually do some local regional transports as well. So we are in a good position to do that with the budget as presented.
Glad to see Canada's taking some refugees. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. First question. How much of your revenue actually comes from grants and donations?
So nothing that is part of our core operating expenses is paid for with that. The grants that we get, and I apologize, I don't have a hard number in front of me, but $200,000 to $300,000 a year, which is what we use to fund that pet resource center. And so we're a little tight right now, but we're hoping the grant cycle is about to open for some of these large national groups. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I've done really consistently is engage with national organizations. I serve on the National Animal Care and Control Board. I am a part of many national groups. I attend conferences with the explicit intention of connecting with those granting agencies so I can bring more funding back to the city of Memphis.
Okay. I only have one comment. I talk to individuals and they just, oh, I love pets, I love dogs, cats, but I just want to adopt one because they're just like children. If I go out of town, I don't have any place to take them.
That would be responsible.
I know, but it can be pretty expensive. So my thought is there any way in the future come up with a plan where the cost is not as high, because I think more people would adopt.
It's usually like 40 to 60 bucks a day or night to board your animal.
That's costly for something.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
so
I hear you.
Our costs are extremely affordable to actually adopt the animal. I mean, the maximum you're paying for a pet is $80, and that's for a highly desirable small breed dog or a little cute kitten. Most are 20 to 40, or we're doing adoption promotions and specials all the time. I agree with you that private sector boarding cost is where those expenses start to add up. I always, when people ask, I try to make recommendations of places I know that offer more affordable options. And not to plug a private thing, but I just found a really cool thing that I'm going to use this summer called Trusted House Sitters, which is like Airbnb for pet care, where they get to stay at your house and visit Memphis and they watch your animals and they stay for free and you pay nothing for pet care. So I'm trying that out with a lady from Tampa this year. I'll let you know if she robs me blind.
Wow.
But
All right.
but no, I feel good about Teresa from Tampa. But I agree with you. And having access to affordable vet care even is a real challenge. So I do recognize that unfortunately pet ownership has become kind of a luxury item, and it does prohibit people from making the decision to adopt, which is why we have so many amazing foster programs where you can still get the joy of pet ownership and save a life by taking a dog on a one-day dog foster field trip. You can foster for one of our transports for a week or two.
Okay.
You can do these short-term things that give you the benefit and joy of pet ownership. You're helping save a life, but you can build that around your travel schedule.
Okay. All right. Those are my only comments. Appreciate the work that you do, and it's
Thank
obvious how passionate you really are.
No one's ever said that to
Taking
me
care
before.
of
No doubt about that.
care of our secondary citizens. I think that's so important now.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Councilwoman Swearengin Washington.
Thank you, Chair. Councilwoman Johnson, if you get a dog, I'll be more than happy to keep him when you go out of town. Oh, okay. I wanted to ask about the walking. How often are the dogs walked?
Yes, ma'am. So this is something, again, that is of critical importance to me, and why we talk about capacity to care and how many animals are in the shelter and how many staff we have. Animals deserve to get out every day, and with full transparency, they do not. Because we are at 150 to 160% of our desired capacity, and our staff spend so much of their day cleaning. But one great program, and again, we're building the volunteer program to increase that, and I hope to be able to give you a different answer in the future. But one of the amazing things that we do that gives you what I would call the most bang for your buck is something called Playgroup. We engaged with a national organization, got a grant to bring them in and train our technicians on the Dogs Playing for Life methodology. And if you drive out to our shelter, you can see on any given day, today in the afternoon, 20 to 25, and people said this will never happen, 20 to 25 pit bulls playing in a yard together. And it goes well, and they get all of this wonderful exercise, and they get to have those normal interactions with each other. And if any of you haven't seen it, one of the coolest things is, we got the AstroTurf from the Liberty Bowl. So again, I'm my mother's daughter. I'm cheap as can be. I don't even let people, when we're short on money, I don't let people buy Post-it notes. I'm like, write on a piece of trash paper at work. I'm very cheap about that stuff. But what I did was I wanted to get these play yards redone because it was muddy and grass and just a mess. And I was on a division director's call, again, collaboration between departments for the benefit of our community and our tax dollars. And I heard they were returfing the Liberty Bowl. So I contacted Nick Walker. He put me in touch with Thomas Carrier, and we got probably $150,000 of turf for free in our play yards. And it looks like the football field. And if you don't know, Coach Silverfield has adopted from us, huge MAS supporter. So he came out for our ribbon cutting with football players and cheerleaders. But any given day, you can see a bunch of dogs romping and having a great time in our play yards. That's really where our focus is over the individual walks.
So the volunteers, they're pretty much walking, and what are other tasks that you have them doing?
The volunteers do so much. So we have leveled volunteers. Level 1 volunteers don't handle animals, so they assist with our significant laundry load, doing dishes, handing out enrichment to the dogs in their kennels, peanut butter filled Kongs and things like that, putting up lost posters. Some of them work remotely and help post all of our the stray dogs we pick up on Nextdoor in the neighborhoods where the animals were picked up. So there's lots of non-animal handling volunteer opportunities. Then you go to a level 2 volunteer, and that's when animal handling begins. So they're going to get individual dogs out for walks, help us run dogs for playgroup, give enrichment to cats, things like that. And then our level 3 volunteers, they train other new volunteers, and they really oversee that volunteer program.
What type of donations do you need?
We have an active, if you go to memphisanimalservices.com, we always need money. Money's, money we can buy whatever, and money helps support our pet resource center. But we also have wish list items. So for example, in the past 24 hours, we got in 35 kittens under the age of 6 weeks that needed to be bottle fed. So I was on Channel 5 this morning calling for fosters. We need kitten formula, bottles. But all of these things are listed on our website under donate needed items. There's an Amazon wish list, a Chewy wish list. You can do that. And then one of the great ways that you can donate for free is our donate used items, towels, blankets, newspapers to line our kennels. I keep a bucket in my neighborhood for my neighbors. I put it in my neighborhood newsletter. They donate newspaper at my house and I bring it to work. Old pill bottles. There's a whole list of used, because we dispense medication to animals when they've been adopted, pain medicine post-surgery. So we send out pill bottles with various antibiotics and things like that. So our website gives you every opportunity, whether it's, you're spring cleaning and want to get rid of some stuff, or you're willing to, put some money behind that and make a purchase, which ships direct to us, or give us a cash donation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You clearly have no idea what you're talking about. But in all seriousness, Jonesy, you brought this up when we did ARPA on some of these items that were over 3 years, but basically no matter what happens without having a service cut in FY25's budget, we have to build in those 3 positions. That's one. The question is what happens this year on a service level and then a CapEx. The thing that I'm curious about, and I don't want to dive into it now because I want to keep us on schedule, and I'm happy to come do another budget session, another council meeting or offline, because I'm sure it's been talked about, but it's amazing when you get more people in the room kind of spitballing ideas, and I don't know what the specs are for additional shelter, right? For additional shelter space and where to do that. Clearly not building in the same area, but building in 2 different areas so it's more accessible to residents. And then what I would consider subsidized boarding. Clearly there's a model that works for private for-profit, like Brown Dog, et cetera, which were bought by a private equity firm. So their model works at $40 a night. And all the other things, their daycare and stuff. So my question is what is a break-even analysis for the city in which they could, I would be very interested to see somebody that really has the time to show me what a break-even analysis would look like for some sort of pet boarding that could be subsidized for certain, I'll just say socioeconomic demographic, right? That need the assistance, and to where the city's not losing any money and we can provide a service that people can't afford in the private market. It may be a fool's errand, but I'm curious if anyone's ever run that down before.
We, as part of our Pet Resource Center, will offer 2 weeks of boarding free for someone who's in housing transition or has an emergency and needs that assistance. What's the capacity for that? The challenge is we don't offer it. We don't have the capacity internally. So we work with veterinary clinic partners that offer us discounted rates of $12 to $15 a day for that service. Okay. The problem is capacity. Right. We do not have a sufficient capacity of boarding facilities for those paying full price in our community. They fill up. I mean, you try to find one for the 4th of July. Hence, Teresa from Tampa, Florida is coming here.
Yeah, Liz and I look at our calendar for the summer, and we've already made all those appointments for our animals. Mm-hmm. So I hear you. But look, I want to talk more about this with you offline so I can understand it. My stepmom was chairman of the board of Humane Society many years ago. I get it, but I don't get it. And I know it always comes down to limited resources, but if there's a way that the city can finance itself or break even, and if there's some model that works out there, it's worth exploring at least on the back of a napkin to see if it's a worthwhile endeavor. I think on Memphis Animal Services, there's probably more conversation the council wants to have as we get closer towards the end of budget wrap up with the administration and partnership. But we certainly, I do, and I know everybody else has your passion, your advocacy, all the things you're trying to do with very limited resources with a problem that is, it's I'm sure there are days where it just feels like I'm not making a dent in it, but I know you know that you are. And so anyway, you're greatly appreciated. And thank you for explaining to us in probably the most detail I've had it, how your organization functions and works, especially from the top all the way down to the bottom. So thank you for the time.
Thank you all for the time. It was great to have this conversation with y'all. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think definitely want you back on Monday. You made the second round. You made the second round. So thank you. And then last and certainly not least, my guy.
Ms. Spear, I had a quick question before you leave.
I'll give it to the chairman.
I'm thinking about the accessibility, as you mentioned, from a Westwood standpoint to Memphis Animal Shelter in the northeast part of the city. Has there been a discussion about a second facility? Is there the need for it, just based upon the geographic location of where it is right now?
We have not had a discussion to that effect, but I will say it is why we have put such a strong emphasis on having our owners return pets in the community where they are found, because we know if as you honored Officer Lawrence Higginbottom, our wonderful #1 return to owner guy, and he works the Westwood area, if he's down there and he can figure out where that dog lives, that dog's never crossing, over 240. It's staying where it is. So right now, the focus is on how can we get it home before it ever leaves that neighborhood, and that's how we're trying to solve the geographic challenge of our location.
Okay, but then I still go back to the discussion that we had about 17 individuals. Knowing that you still have those challenges, are you building in additional recruitment, still knowing that the lead time that you require is so long?
That would certainly be a conversation that I would want to have with Chief Ryan about whether the infrastructure associated with that recruitment process. Is that what you're referring to? Or are you saying about identifying candidates earlier to fill anticipated vacancies?
Well, I guess I'm just of the opinion that 17 for 300 square miles may be inadequate. Or is, but we still are faced with, hey, it took you 6 to 8 months to find somebody the last time, and we're not building that into this budget. I think we should look at this on a continual basis, not just this next fiscal year, knowing that we're going to have these permanent type of challenges. And Memphis, we may have the annexation, but we really aren't shrinking that much. This problem or this challenge is a permanent problem. I don't think we should look at it just based upon this fiscal year, what we can do, and we're not adding anybody in this fiscal year. More so a planning approach, not just looking at a snapshot for the next 12 months.
Certainly. So building a long-term strategic plan for the 5 or 10-year growth of Memphis Animal Services as it fits into the overall city strategic plan.
Well, I would say
happy to do that.
1 to 3, 3 to 5.
Sure.
But we still have those immediate needs now, and I don't see us addressing that right now.
Understood.
Yeah.
I've never seen in my entire business career a 10-year strategic plan actually make it all the way through. 5-year plans are tough. Yeah. But Jones is right, and I think, and I'll just be more direct, and then correct me if I'm wrong. At the end of the day, when you're covering 300 square miles with 17 people as best as you're deployed, and you're talking about trying to return animals, and you've got the facility all the way up in Northeast Memphis, it makes sense that, and this is why I was saying I really want to talk offline so I can understand the specs required. Like if I've got city-owned property or a former general services building or something like that, or a former Shelby County Schools building that is just sitting there, what would be required to outfit that, and what are we really talking about, and that's what I think Jones is saying as a part of that comprehensive picture, how to evaluate that as a strategic goal.
And not just looking at year by year, more long term. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah,
That's great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Where do we find this guy?
Yeah.
Where's he been hiding?
There he is. A long way down from 7, huh, fella?
I heard it was an Amber looking at
Yeah, it was.
All right, folks, you know him, you love him. Office of Youth Services, Mr. Ike Griffith. Ike, will you press the push to talk button? You got it. You're hot. All right, sir. Take it away.
Well, thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to come before you today to talk about the Office of Youth Services. First of all, I'm truly blessed to have an outstanding staff to help me with this work with our young people. I don't have to tell you that we're losing so many of our young people to violent crimes, students not being prepared once they walk across the stage and get their high school diploma. And at the Memphis Office of Youth Services, we are reaching out to as many children as we possibly can to make them a successful and an independent, good citizen of our city. We have several programs under our direction. We have the summer employment, employ. We have the MAP program. Those may be two that you may be familiar with. But we have expanded to be able to help as many children as we possibly can. With our employer summer program, we have gotten up to the number of 2,000 children that we have been servicing over the past months, in past years. But that I see a trend in that number falling. And I don't know why it's falling, but it's falling. We have our MAP program where we service 440 students in our after-school program. But what we have done, we have increased the number of programs that we have. The Employer program that I mentioned for 6 weeks, now we have an Employer Plus program. That's the fall edition of our program, where we started a pilot program with 100 participants who did an outstanding job, and with businesses that wanted to support us in giving our children more opportunities. We have a I Am Included program. This is that program that we deal with our children with special needs. And I want to give accolades to Councilman Jones for helping us to get that started launch-wise with $25,000. I think that's been about 3 or 4 years ago. We started out with 50 students. Now we're up to 150 students. Children that we are dealing with blind, visually impaired, autism, Down syndrome within our program. One of the unique things that I really want to bring out today with that program is that we are helping our young people become independent as much as we possibly can. And one of the things that we have in our program is an opportunity for our youth with disabilities to write their own story. And that book is going to be called My Story in a Special Way, dealing with autism, maybe dealing with blind and visually impaired, and they will be published. And this program is going to start this summer. We're also reaching out to our students who are homeless and working in foster care in our program. Our Back on Track program, I'm in Hope Academy, helping those young individuals, once they are released, reaching out to them and giving them opportunities to come into our program. We have an MOYS Institute. Many of our businesses say that our children are not prepared. In our MOY Institute, we are training our young people, hard and soft skill training, to make sure that they are employable once they leave our program and once they turn 16 years of age. That institute is for our 14 and 15-year-olds who cannot go on a job site. We have several programs for those students that may not be in my program. This past weekend, I think all of you all probably got an invitation. Preventive measures, laws, rights, and consequences. We're trying to reach out to those children before they make that bad decision behind bars, now trying to figure it out. We had Memphis Police there, the Sheriff's Department, we had an attorney, and our judges participated on our panel, where we broke down different scenarios on how young people should act if pulled over by a police officer, trying to instill in them to become a productive citizen, understanding laws and how not to break those laws at an early age, because young people do not know how critical it is for them to lose their livelihood at such a young age, but understanding it after the fact, while they're behind bars. We also had a career and technical expo that was held back in March. We had 250 vendors at the Renaissance Center, giving our young people an opportunity, not only the school system here, but the surrounding area, because crime is just not in our city, but the surrounding area. Some of our young people were employed, got hired on the spot, and we were very elated to that. Matter of fact, as you all may know, I'm now not only the director of the Memphis Office of Youth Services, but I'm also the director of Community Affairs, where we are dealing with WOW and Manhood University and Opportunity Youth. We had several of our young people from Opportunity Youth that was hired during that expo. So we are trying to continue to do as much as that we possibly can. This is not easy work. Let me be the first to tell you, it is not easy. You know, I think a lot of our young people have gotten the mindset that they don't want anything anymore. Some gonna be walking across the stage in May, can't read, and they're gonna be adding on to the problem that we have out here already. And what we're trying to do is get in front of summer, get in front of it prior to schools being let out to make sure that we have something in place for them. But this is the devastating thing. We had over 3,000 children to apply for our summer program, 3,000. And we accepted every last one. But they won't bring their documents. They won't show up. And this is something that I don't know what the problem is, but I tell you one thing, I'm reaching out. You've probably seen the commercials on television, Employer Last Chance. If you're registered during the summer, come to us. We advertise our program by television, commercials, billboards throughout the city, newspaper, social media, every way possible. But children in this day and time don't want to take advantage of opportunities. Now, it always go back to the home. We know this. But there has to be some things in place that we must unify to make these young people do when they are not in the presence of their parents. Now, I know that may be consequences. I don't want to tell you my consequences that I will put in place because they may not be accepted in here. But I can tell you this. This summer, it's going to be Hello on Wheels, and the O in Hello is silent, okay? Because a lot of students do not want to participate. They're looking to get in trouble, and peer pressure, it is at its highest level. That's why I don't just meet. We the meetingest people I ever seen. While we meeting, there's another carjacking. While we're meeting, there's another snatch and grab. But we are doing everything possible within the Memphis Office of Youth Services to reach out to those individuals, providing those opportunities. And once we do that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we can do. Honestly, that's all we can do. You know, the budget that we have is substantial where it is right now because I don't want to be overkill and not getting the participants that we actually need. As I mentioned to you earlier, some of those individuals that registered not coming on board with us. So I don't want to get money that I'm not going to use because I can squeeze the life out of a dollar bill and I can make it happen because some of these programs we put on by asking other resources to support us. Boxing at the Pipkin, I'm asking businesses to support us. And they do. We brought the Golden Gloves back to the city of Memphis that had not been in Memphis since 1969 with the help of the late Mr. Pete Mitchell. And we've had it for 3 years. Now they wanted us to host the national Golden Gloves here because of the way we put on our events. I try to be top notch in everything that I do because your first impression is the lasting one. And that's why we got a chance on the 25th of April to go to the school board, my youth, city council, and members of my ambassadors program, and we requested for prayer, a moment of silence to be put back in our school system. And we was granted that request that night. We got to go back to basics. We got to create our foundation that we all should be standing on, understanding, put God first in everything that you do. Because all your hopes and dreams are destined to failure if you don't put him first. I tell my young people, honor the mother and father while they live. I heard a news story where a mother asked the son to wash dishes. He said he wasn't. She slapped him. He slapped her back. then she stabbed him. A child being so disrespectful to the vessel that brought him in here. Third, I tell him, watch the company that you keep. Everybody who calls themselves your friend is not your friend. Everybody in your little circle may not be in your corner. And don't believe things that people tell you on a regular basis, because even salt look like sugar. So they need to understand these things as we move forward with our young people. So everything that you all have been doing for me, let me tell you something, I appreciate it. And I hope you've seen the work that I'm doing along with my staff, because we work. That's probably why you were looking for me, because I'm out there tilling the soil every chance I get. I'm trying to also, in my program, teach our young people how to cursive write. They can't even do that. There are documents that you have to sign. And it's disheartening to see a child not being able to do that and getting ready to get out into society. You know, these are things that...
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
I'm going to have to cut y'all.
I was about to pass the offering plate.
Recognize
Okay.
some of my council members who may have questions.
Okay.
I have in the
That's
queue. Well, you know, if you could, I guess we can see that there's not a significant difference in your budget year over year. So I don't know if any colleagues had questions about that, but I do have in the queue Councilman Canale, followed by Swearingen Washington and Logan.
May I
and
make a
Johnson.
quick statement before?
Yes.
It'll be very quick. I just want to note that this unit is also getting the 2% increase. It's just not shown here because remember, this is part of the executive budget. So all of that is parked in the mayor's service center currently, and then it'll be distributed. That's how it's done in all of the other divisions. Just want to make sure that no one has a question about that.
Okay, gotcha. Councilman Canale.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Director Griffith, thank you so much for being here. I agree with you 100% that we have taken God out of everything and we wonder why we're in the shape that we're in. So I applaud you for saying that and standing upon your principles, because if we don't, we will surely fail. You said 3,000 registered. How many will show up?
Right now we have about 1,500.
Okay, so about half.
Yeah.
And how many youth do you have contact with on a year-round basis?
Well, that's our 440 that we have in our MAP program. Our employ program, those are kids that are not in our program, but they're registering to work during the summer. But we have our hands on 440 through our MAP program, 150 through our I'm Included program. So we're with those individuals on a daily basis.
Okay, and do you focus in specific schools for your tutoring program, are you in all the schools?
Not all the schools, no sir.
Which ones are you predominantly in?
What's those schools?
So in our 8th grade tutoring program,
Can you come up to the mic so those in the viewing and listening audience can hear you?
And it's going to be inclusive to our 8th grade apprentice program. We reach back to our 8th grade children who are underachieving academically in order to get that grade point average up so they can move over into our regular MAP program.
Good afternoon. My name is Marco S. Robinson. I'm the program manager for MAP. It's great to see you all here. For our 8th grade program, we focus predominantly on low-income schools that are struggling with having teachers like stay to help students after school. So we've done most of our work we've done in South Memphis with Riverview. We've done Hanley, we've done Wooddale, and it's one more I think we've done. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Are you at capacity? Could you handle more?
So that's the other thing. It's when we're asking for requirements, and some of our students are really, really transient, so we're asking for documents, and so that's the hardest part, is getting the parents to buy into what we're doing, because we pay students. So we need Social Security cards, we need IDs. Like I said, people are transient. So they may, today they may live here, tomorrow they may live there. So we do ask for a proof of residence so they can be within the city limits. Those normally are our barriers. So we've been working lately to try to figure out ways to kind of help those things out so we can move the process along. So there's no shortage on students. It's more, are the parents willing to come in and help out? Now, if I can add also, in our MAP program, it's a requirement for parental involvement. That's how young people get their points in order to get that stipend. Community service also. Community service is one of our, major components because we need to teach our young people how to give back. Matter of fact, the I'm Included program this past weekend, the kids with disabilities, they were giving out goodie bags to the homeless on Poplar. See, we want to make sure everyone understands the process, and that's why we're so elated to have that program.
So, do the schools help you with promoting the summer program? And for 3,000 to register and only 50% show up, what can we do? What can we do to assist? We talk about a lot during budget season. What else can we do for you? Look, colleagues, I don't think that we can over invest in our youth because that means we're not investing in our future. I would love to hear what else we can do, what resources you need, how we can reach those kids, how we can partner with some other youth organizations or schools so that we can get to your full capacity. If you can take 3,000, we would certainly love for 3,000 to show up.
Well, Councilman, I'm going to tell you the reason why, because MSCS is in competition with me. They've started their own program. They made an incentive to pay their kids a little bit more, less hours. Everything balances out, okay? If we stop being a competition with each other, they're in the business to educate. I'm in the business to help the child after school by providing a positive opportunity. So we can start there. That would be a great place to start. Not being in competition with me. Memphis Youth Got Talent. That was a program that I started. Then, thank you, sir. Then after that, lo and behold, the school system came up with their own talent show. So this is something I've been, battling over, but I'm just continuing to do the work that I do. So when one door closes, I'll open up another one. I created a game show that airs on the Library Channel called Do You Really Know Memphis? Okay? This is a game show for our young people to participate. And we pay the winner, $300 from a resource on the outside that helps with the Memphis Office of Youth Services. So we constantly coming up with things, okay? I'm not in this business to fight. I'm in the business to help. And I've had conversations with prior administration, what we are trying to do and why can't we work together? But it goes in one ear and out the other. So I know how to carry on after that.
So what's your best resource if MSCS is in competition with you? And I understand some people out there are territorial and whereas there should be no pride and ownership, there very much is, especially in government. So is it community centers, libraries? What's your best resource for access to these youth?
I think community centers that we are in also, that's where some of our programs are being held. Our MAP program, we're in those community centers. And just, I can't get enough communications out there, okay? I wish it was a way that I can continue to put ads in newspapers and ads on television and billboards, just continue to just pump every opportunity that I have to be exposed to the individuals. I think that's one of the major things, but we just keep doing what we're doing. We're gonna always offer more. We're gonna do that. We're gonna come up with incentives to get our faith-based communities involved. Matter of fact, right now, I'm working on a program called Our Young Ones, trying to reach back for those second graders that we can get to be able to read on grade level by third grade. If not, they're gonna be retained, trying to get in front of everything that I possibly can.
So we're going to be working with the faith-based communities and some of the churches to implement that program this summer instead of Friday night lights, okay? It's time out for that. We got so much that we need to do now to make sure that we can bring our children up the right way, even if the parents do not do it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Canale. Councilwoman Swearengin-Washington.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to
And Ms.
commend.
Griffith, I need you to make your responses a little bit more concise, please.
Okay.
I just wanted to commend the work that you're doing, you and Mrs. Ware. What are the ages for the summer program?
14 to 22. And that includes our college students also, the 22 years of age.
If you could share some of the information with us as we're going to our community meetings, we could help get that message out there and get you some quality candidates.
Okay.
So I would like to touch base with you and get that
Yes,
information.
ma'am.
Okay. Councilwoman Logan, followed by Smiley and Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to know what the profile is, or you are tracking the profile of those students that do participate, and after tracking them, going after more students in that profile, and how they came into the program, following that. That's one thing, or how do you capitalize on that? The second one is, I heard you say that the barriers were the documentation, and I don't know if there's something you can do, but when you have the day that they apply, is the Social Security's office or the health department actually there to help get that information started? Is that possible to do? That's one question. And then churches, neighborhood groups, homeowners associations, and social media. Mr. White, during our public safety committee, mentioned some things innovative ways in which we can use social media or influencers, these people that, influence the young people to help push out information, as well as QR codes across the city, being more visible in places where they are, even if it's just a QR code and they scan and get information about what the city offers for youth and how to apply or directly apply. Laundromats. I mean, just different ways that we haven't thought about is another question. And then the last one is, what is your greatest challenge? What is the greatest challenge that you're seeing right now in this program being successful?
I'll answer that last one first. I think one of the biggest challenges is getting our young people to take advantage of opportunities. And I need that parent support.
So parental support?
I need that parental support, and that's very important. I can't go no further than they let me. And children just need to take on the mindset of doing the right thing. Even if they don't get it at home, they should be getting it in schools, because society gonna teach them one way or the other.
So parental support is the greatest challenge?
The greatest challenge.
Okay, and is the Social Security office or health department or any of those agencies that can assist on site with getting those documents that are provided?
Right now we are trying to work along with the DMV
Mm-hmm.
for these state IDs in order for our young people to have, because we cut the check in the child's name, and they need to have ID to be able to cash that check. So that's one of the biggest challenges. I don't know whether or not we can get our banks to use a school ID or not. I'm not sure. But we have tried to reach out to the driving license place for state IDs.
Well, I was talking about in them applying to be in the program. You said a lot of there's some of them that don't come out of the 3,000 because they can't get you the documentation they need, such as Social Security cards and health department. So when the parents bring them to apply, are you able to have, access to those agencies to get that started? That's just an idea.
We have windows where documents have to be turned in because we have to start preparing for the summer. So before we even talk about registration, we always tell parents, and it's on our website, these are everything that you need. Even if you may or may not be selected, go ahead and get these documents. Once they're selected, if they don't have like a Social Security card. It takes up to 6 weeks for them to get a Social Security card. By that time, we passed our window of when we're accepting students, because now we have to move on to the next steps. And so we don't take some of our people, they may come and say, well, I applied. Applying for a Social Security card, that's great, but for this moment, you missed this window. So we have to move on to the next thing. And so which normally myself or Ms. Donna, we'll go back into our lottery and we'll grab another set of students and we'll say, okay, this is what you need. Do you have it? So we exhaust. So if it's 3,500 students, if it's 4,000 on a yearly basis, we've exhausted that entire list.
But if you had a day where the Social Security office, the health department, or some of them were there, and you had a day, if you want to be a part of this and you don't have your documentation, come here this day, and they can help you get the ball rolling. I'm saying if that might be something to consider when it's on site. Sometimes people will, process stuff. But I was just wanting to know what the barriers are for you these days, why you're not able to get 100% participation when you're paying, for summer jobs. Because if we keep putting money into it, but you're not able to get anybody, that's the moot point. So whatever those barriers are, I think that would be the most important thing to do, versus putting more money into the program.
Right. I will say this too. We provide transportation for them by giving bus passes. Now, once they get their first check, they need to learn responsibility. They buy their own bus passes to continue the program. I don't want to always be a handout. I'm trying to teach them along the way early on. So we do provide those services.
Okay. I mean, you said there are 3,000 slots. You only get 1,500 because they can't have their documentation. That's what I was talking about.
Right, okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I yield back, Chair.
Okay. Councilman Vice Chair Smiley.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of questions that were sent to me. I think I was speaking to, it was Mayor Strickland, and I spoke to Director Walker. I think you spent a lot of time talking about how we can help the young people. I think what Mayor Strickland and I were discussing is maybe we should, we got to figure out how to get the young people out, but start going community center by community center and just having open dialogues with young people to figure out, what we can do to, in terms of programming to, I guess, keep young people out of, we got to figure out what they want to do. I'm not one to use TikTok at all, but I found out Generation Z loves TikTok. I don't know how to dance, so I don't mess with TikTok. But it just got to find ways to reach them. I think it'll be beneficial to see what type of community conversations we can do with some of the young people in various different neighborhoods. So I think that's a conversation that you and Director Walker and I need to have. And I know I spoke to the mayor; he would be supportive of that as well. And I have a couple of other questions. I'm trying to figure out at the end of each fiscal year. I think you have funding left over, or something like that.
It's very little, and that comes from children not finishing the entire program.
Okay. So how much did you have open? Well, how much will you have left over after this current fiscal year, if you had to guess?
That's a hard thing to do. To be quite honest.
Okay. And assuming you will have some funds left over, will you be able to use those funds to pay for some of the current programs that you have existing?
Yes. Matter of fact, as I mentioned earlier, I have an Employer Plus program. Mm-hmm. That's a fall edition that we created. And I think last year we started out with about 80 people. Now we're going to try to double that this year coming with those funds that may be available.
It's about $1 million? I'm trying to figure out how much funds, right now, how much funds do you have remaining? $1 million?
Well, we haven't started the program yet. So the summer program has to start. So it's kind of hard for me to tell you. I have money now to take care of my the participants for the summer. So I won't know that answer until after the program is over.
That money was allocated during this time last year that he hasn't spent yet.
Okay, so you're assuming the funds you have remaining, you will be using it to pay pay for the summer program?
Yes.
Okay. And I think we need to get together soon. You and Director Walker and I to figure out, start having these conversations in community so we can figure out maybe we need to create a XYZ program in your division to address some of the issues or some of the things, or create some type of safe space or event for young people. But I don't think we can figure out what type of programs we need to be funding or creating without at least having conversations with people other than some programs that we know we're going to do. So I think we should be doing that rather soon.
And if I can just add, and I'll be brief, I don't want those programs to be about fun and games. Our children need to be learning early. I think that's a lot of the problems too. Everything has to be fun and games with them. We need to kind of get them back to basic. Now, we're going to have some fun, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to have a program that's centered around that, because I think we'll be missing the mark in helping them become productive individuals.
I think it's a delicate balance, because I think if you told me, especially how I was acting when I was a teenager, you told me I can go, over here with some of my homeboys and hoop, and I can go with these set of friends and go learn about algebra. I'm never going to algebra class.
What if I'm paying you? I'm paying you.
If you're paying me, I'm still not going to go learn about algebra. I think because I can get money elsewhere. So I think we just have to find a fine line, because one, we want to provide a safe space for young people. Two, we want them not out in the streets doing things that could get them in trouble. But two, we want them to want to be there. If they want to be there, we can find ways to, give them some of the tools they need to be successful in life. I don't want to scare people away and saying, hey, come learn algebra or come learn geometry. I want to say, this is going to be a place where you're going to enjoy yourself. It's going to be a place where you will be with people that hopefully you respect, and you can, eventually learn something from them. I think we have to be, progressive in the sense that we have to understand this is a different generation. We don't, and I consider myself a fairly young person, but I have no clue what my nephew wants to do for fun. I'm literally learning different things all the time. The way he dressed, I don't understand. In my time, that would have been considered, out of pocket. So I'm just trying to, we have to figure out what this generation wants, and I don't think we can force them to live the life that we want them to live. We have to figure out what they like and ultimately adjust accordingly. Because if you would ask my father about, me as a young person, he would tell you he think his son has lost his mind. And now I think he's somewhat proud of the person I've become. So I think we have to figure out how to guide them without telling them this is not right.
So I think it rolls into more sort of expansion. So in part of the programs that we have what we have. Like, we have boots on the ground. So we have youth specialists in 9 different community centers. These are the students' mentors. So they're with these students from 9th grade all the way up until they graduate.
I've never heard of youth specialists.
Yeah, they're with the students 9th grade all the way up until they graduate. So they work with them. We had to expand programming. So education is going to always be one of the things on the program. But we also had to start including social-emotional learning. We had to start including mental health. So we had to start putting mental health specialists in front of the students. Hey, let's talk about why you're stressing at school. Let's talk about, why are you having these issues? Most of the people on our staff, they are about juniors in college. And so they're walking with these students. Some of our staff know more about the students than their own parents do, because they have those kind of conversations and connections. That's what it is. And Councilwoman Logan, thank you for coming out. When you've come and you've spoken to the kids, I think Councilman Jones, he's done it in times past. And Councilman Johnson, she's done it as well. I mean, thank you all. Yeah, thank you all for coming out and talking to the students. So I think when we look at programming, we look at how do we expand what we're doing? How do we get more of the mental health community involved?
How do we get more people who are, well versed in how the mind develops, and get them involved too? Because I love directors like old school values. You got to give them to the kids. You got to give it to them, but you got to give it to them in a way that they can digest it and take it. You have to give it to them like that. Forcing it to them doesn't work anymore. And I agree, Councilman Smiley, we can put $1,000 in front of some of these kids, and they gonna look at us like, I don't want that. They gonna do what they want to do. So we have to come up with innovative ways to approach them. So we're in 9 community centers. We're all over the city. So like with the MAP program, we've exhausted our budget now. Like we've exhausted our salaries line for the kids, and we still got 2 months left. So it's just what we do, but then it's staffing. They're working, we got part-time staff. We got part-time staff. These folks got bills too. And so when it's not feasible for them, they're only staying a short time as well. They're not staying a long time. And so we ask people to stay at least a year. Build connections with kids, because a lot of times people flow in and out of these kids' lives. So they need people who are going to stick and stay for a while. So if we can expand programming, involving everybody, giving all the kids all the opportunities we can give them, I think it'll work, but we have to meet them where they are.
So I just want to ask you one quick question. What programs do you have available specifically for the summer?
Employ, MAP, the 8th grade apprentice program, All My Children, Back on Track, MOYS Institute. Did I miss one? I think that's all.
And how many students, young people, are you think you will potentially serve during the summer?
With all those programs, I'll probably be at maybe 2,500, close to 3,000.
2,500, 3,000 students this summer. And is there sufficient funding in the budget to reach those numbers too?
Yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Johnson, followed by Councilman Ford.
Thank you so much. In reference to the 3,000, you said you had 3,000 to apply. Are you saying those are 3,000 for all of those programs, or was it 3,000 for a particular program?
Particular program, that's the Employ program.
Now, when will you decide that window is closed and we're not going to be able to accept any more documents?
That window closed after we had our lottery, and we accepted everyone who registered. So now we're starting the process of getting documents and what have you for the summer.
So right now you're looking at 1,500.
Close to 1,500, that's right now.
Right.
Yes.
So if you only come back with 2,000, what you gonna do with the 1,000 slots? Are you gonna open it back up, or what are you gonna do?
And that's the thing, we can't open it back up because time won't allow us to do that because of when the summer program starts. We start June 5th, and there's a process, orientation. We have our business partners that's already in place to take that particular number that we have. So we're at the end of being able to take more students in. Now, once they register, here's the thing. If they register during the month of December, those are ones that we've been asking to come on, let's get this going. But to start all over from a registration standpoint, when they got to register from round zero, that's the problem. But we accepted every last one that we have, and we asked them to bring their documents and come on in. That's why we did the television commercials and radio commercials, asking them to come on back because they're already in the system.
What is the salary that you're paying these individuals?
For our 8th grade, the 120. That's okay. This week.
Is that what you're referencing here? There's for MAP 2.5, 125 a month.
Right.
There's some rates on here.
Okay, I looked at it.
Those rates have changed.
Oh, they have. Okay.
Yeah, they have changed. In our MAP program, our students are paid by their GPA. I want children to realize if they want to be a 4.0 grade point average student, you got to work for it. 3.0 does not make the same as a 3.5. and so on and so on. In my 8th grade program, because everybody on the same level, underachieving, they get the same amount based upon their GPA and participation and community service.
Okay. All right then. I don't know, like I said, Smiley asked what was available. I mean, if anything is still open and people can apply for, if you would send us that information, we would do our best, I'm sure, to try to make sure we can reach out to individuals and get them participating in the program. I don't know what about that documentation. The address you can probably work out, but I do know it's very difficult to get that Social Security number at some time. You know, I work with homeless, and that's a problem to get their Social Security number and establish an address. But I mean, it's unbelievable that it happens, unfortunately, for the kids.
This is Miss Donna Danson, who's over my employee program, and she can kind of give you a little brief overview of the process. You don't have to. Okay. We're on time. Oh, we good?
Right. Councilman Ford.
Thank you. Look, I appreciate everything that you do. One thing, you know, if these young kids can play video games and all the rest of the stuff, I'd like for them to be part of you where they can learn something. It's more than playing video games and out there in the street flashing fake money that they get from eBay and all these other places, okay? One thing that you really brought up, which is very important, you brought up something that was taken out of school, and that's cursive writing. It's a shame, and I see it every day in my line. Young people, you say, I need you to sign this, and they really can't print either, but they print it. Don't even know what cursive writing means, not to sign anything, okay? But if you can help one child, you've done well. But if you can help those 1,000, you've done way much better. But now, if you say you can deal with 3,000, we want to be there to help you try to get those 3,000 and bring 3,000 of them parents that probably need the same thing, okay? All right? So anything that we can do, please, hey, I think, Council, we're here to kind of help you, especially with our youth, because every day when you turn on the TV, what are we looking at, okay? With our youth, and I'm talking about from age 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, okay? And I'm getting old. When I retire, who are we gonna have to run anything? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Griffith, I appreciate all the work that you've done. However, you know, with a lot of the budgets that I've seen, particularly those that really dive deep into and really affect and touch people, I'm disappointed. We have 100,000 students in Shelby County schools. And so for us to just say, well, 3,000, and I know we're up against a gun now. School is going to be out in less than a month. But, you know, I know that we've ramped things up as far as the number of people that we serve, but I think that we are really at an inflection point, and I hesitate to use desperation to say that we're desperate, but I can't, in good conscience, look at this budget and see that you're only up $2,000 and think that we're going to change and impact kids differently. Mr. Robinson indicated here under the part that he works with, they're out of money now. So, you know, shifting resources, making sure that's there. I really haven't heard any coordination. Forget Shelby County Schools. I haven't heard much coordination between your department and parks and your department and libraries. So we need to address our coordination before we say, okay, well, Shelby County, we can't get in, Shelby County Schools is not cooperating and they're competing with us. So if we could, from a lot of people, what they've said, just from the what we've seen in the first 4 months of this year, we cannot continue down the same path that we're on with the same plan, same money, and expect different results. And look, do I know how to do it? I'd be the first one to tell you no. But I think that we have some very resourceful people. I just see, I don't know, how can we loosen whatever restraints that's keeping us from being more ambitious, being bolder, and being, and addressing what clearly, watching the news every day and every night, seeing what we're facing. We can't approach, and I don't know what took place from developing these budgets. I know that, I got 5, 6, 7 months here, as does the mayor, but we still got to live in this city. I still got to live in this city past December 31st. Mm-hmm. And I had expectations that the administration, that the mayor would want to go out with a bang and say, I'm putting the cherry on top of when I go out. But I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen that from solid waste. I hadn't seen that from, we're doing a little bit better, part-times with a few more positions there. But if we're talking about, Ms. Robinson talked about 9 community centers, why not have an equivalent in every community center? Bring us a budget asking for that. That's how we make an impact on what we're facing this summer. If I sound desperate, I am desperate for us to do something vastly different than what we've done, because we clearly see the results.
Just one thing.
Yeah, please.
Talk about restraints. For every child that lives outside of the city limits, I have to turn down. So let's open it up for any child, whether they live in the city of Memphis or the county. We can start there, because that's one of the requirements. You must live in the city of Memphis to be a part of our program. Some of those students that apply,
Ms. Griffith,
live in the county. So I'm just asking.
Ms. Griffith, 85% of Shelby County schools enrollment, they live in the city limits of Memphis,
that's
man.
True. That's true.
We do.
But I'm just trying to find an innovative way to try to get past that barrier.
Let me step in here for a little bit. I just want to say, in terms of parks, when you get to the parks budget, you'll see that budget has increased significantly. So during the mayor's speech, he talked about all of the different programming that he was looking to do this summer with youth in the parks budget. As it relates to what we have going in the youth budget, in the youth services budget, we're funded up to 2,000 students. We've come off of pandemic. He's had a difficult time filling those seats, and we're here at a point where he's at 1,500, and he has opened everything back up to try to get more students. I think you've heard Mr. Marquez talk about how in his MAP program he would love to have more, but he's having difficulty getting the kids, the parents, to be involved so that he can grow that program more. And I know that through the council support, really, there's been some additional ARPA funds that have been thrown into the mix of this conversation as well. I don't want you to look at this in a singular space, but understand once you get to some of these other budgets, or specifically when you get to the parks budget, you'll see that there's some additional dollars parked there to help support what initiatives we can put forward with the youth this summer. Just want to make that note for the record.
But the parks budget is still, I think, not even 6% of the budget. I don't think we've made a significant investment in parks. We're still talking about 6% of the budget.
It's about a $7 million increase to the parks budget. But you have to remember, the budget has increased significantly because 5% went to police, 5% went to fire. And then we had
Well, we
some
haven't approved the
increases.
budget yet. We haven't approved the budget. I think that's the mayor's plan.
Well, I'm just responding in kind to what you said, what was in the budget. So in that budget, the same budget that you just spoke about, in the mayor's budget proposed, it does have additional dollars in there. The raises and increases that you see in police and fire are taking up a significant portion of that percentage. But when you look at the parks budget overall, year over year, you will see an increase there.
Well, that's all in the queue. Was there any other presentation that we had? I would, Ms. Ryan, Mr. Adams, if we can, whatever we can do, Mr. Griffith, to be more ambitious. We don't have any laurels to rest on. We don't. I know that we are at, and I still want you, I would ask that you think about this budget, because next summer is still going to be part of this budget. Next June, when kids get out, it's still going to be part of this budget that we are approving. So if there's something that you can't do for June of 23, bring it back for June 24. Include it in there. But this is, I still see this, as I talked about with the Memphis Animal Services. It's almost, I understand that this is just for this next year, but it's, and we'll be in a new administration. I won't be here, whatever the case may be, but I'm sure that whomever the next mayor would be appreciative of what we're doing, giving them something to work with come next summer, because this is all of our issues. This is all of our problems. Whether I won't be on the city council, but it's still going to be my problem, my issue come June 24. And this is, and I know it may be different than what your directives were in presenting this budget, but this is still, June 24 can still be impacted by the decisions that we are making and being presented with today. And that's still, technically speaking, June 24 next year is still half of the summer. So I don't want us to essentially say we've approved the budget, and this budget really only takes us through the end of this year, And the plans that we've laid out only takes us because, hell, I might not be here. There's going to be a new administration. But next year is still going to be part of this. Next June is still going to be part of this budget. So we can, my take on that, we still can be more ambitious and bold and be more forward thinking about next year. Thanks. Yes.
I think the other thing that we really need to keep in mind is, Mr. Griffin, you're very creative. It is obvious that you think outside
And got
the
great
box.
people around them, yeah.
Right. So we truly wish that you would think of something and make us aware of it. And the other thing is, we talk about the summer, but we got Christmas break, we got spring break, we got fall break. We need to find some type of different activities across the board that could be implemented in order for keep all the kids involved. What's the total number of kids in the school system right now?
About 100,000.
So with us only hitting 2,000,
Right, exactly.
we just hadn't hit it hard enough.
Yeah.
We need to come up with something where we're at least trying to address 50 or 60,000 kids. I know that's astronomical and that's such a late date, but hey, let's have a dream and see can we make it.
Yeah, right.
I would love to bring back some information that talks about how many kids that we're impacting in the libraries, how many kids we're impacting in parks, how many kids we have signed up currently and are signing up more for parks activities and for camp. I also want to point out that we have something different that we haven't had the last year or so, and Director Griffith spoke about it, is not only is MSCS SES. Not only are they doing a sort of a youth program where they're giving youth jobs, but they also have summer camp. So we're finding that even with our parks that we're competing with them. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying we're seeing the impacts of us going after some of the same kids, and we're doing our best to work around those types of challenges. I guess
we don't see
I just want to point that out.
Tell us where they are. We would love to have that information.
Councilwoman Logan, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, I just wanted to include when you come back with all the other, if parental support is the number one challenge or barrier, if you could include something that's whatever you're going to do to get around that hurdle or incentives or parental involvement, because if that's the number one barrier, we definitely need to see something reflected, in the plan on attacking that hurdle.
Thank you all for your presentation. Have a good evening, everybody. Is there any other business to come before the Budget Committee? We are adjourned.